Hi, Wolf Recap here. Today, I'm gonna explain a series called Marvel Runway Season 1. The series begins at midnight with a woman named Destiny who is walking alone in the street. She is surprised by two men trying to assault her, but two women manage to rescue her and take her to their car, which is filled with many homeless people like her. We learn that they then take her to a church. About 6 months pass, and we see a student named Alex preparing for school. We learn that 2 years ago he lost one of his closest friends and has since become introverted, seldom going out or speaking much. He lives with his father, Jeffrey, and his mother, Catherine, who believe he should move on and continue with his life. We also see a teenager named Nico entering her sister Amy's room to take some things. Amy committed suicide 2 years ago, which devastated the family. Nico argues with her mother, Tina, who had forbidden her from entering her sister's room, while their father, Robert, is present but inactive. In another place, we see a student named Chase arguing with his father, Victor, over his recent school grades. In the church, we see a student named Carolina who spends a lot of time there asking her mother, Leslie, to allow her to go on a school trip. Leslie refuses because she wants Carolina to supervise a church service group. In a third location, we see two sisters, Molly and Gert, arriving at school with their father, Dale, and mother, Stacy. Leslie visits an unknown, very sick person whose skin is flaky and who is on many machines, able to speak only a few words. Leslie assures him that everything is ready and they are about to begin soon. In the middle of the school day, Alex goes to talk to Chase and expresses his wish for them to hang out like old times. We learn that they were very close friends, but Amy's death affected them all to the point where they haven't hung out together in 2 years. Alex is disappointed when he suggests they meet at his house and they refuse. At the end of the school day, Chase talks to his teacher and asks him to raise his grade on an exam. It's apparent that Chase is afraid of his father, but the teacher advises him to study so that his grade can improve in the next exam. Gert witnesses this and, having a crush on Chase, seizes the opportunity to offer him study help. Chase agrees, and they plan to meet at a cafe that night. Meanwhile, Molly has a test in a particular sport, but she becomes very tired and is unable to continue, so she is taken to the school clinic. The doctor asks her if anyone in her family has similar symptoms, but since Molly is adopted, she doesn't know much about her biological family. The doctor leaves, and at that moment Molly feels intense pain, and suddenly her eyes change color. She discovers a great power within her, strong enough to bend the iron under her. We learn that Carolina spends most of her time in the church like her mother. That day she records something and unexpectedly meets Destiny, who came to thank Leslie for saving her life when she was on the street. At this moment, Leslie appreciates her mother's value and what she does. Gert waits for Chase at the cafe as planned, but he is having a good time at a party and forgets her. Carolina, deciding to do something different for the first time in her life, is also at the same party. She takes a drug from a stranger and decides to remove the bracelet she has worn her entire life. Strangely, she sees her body in different colors and assumes they are hallucinations, but then she loses consciousness. Chase sees two men taking her and going to a room, so he follows them. He discovers they intended to assault her, but intervenes, beating them until they leave the room. As soon as Carolina puts on her bracelet, she regains consciousness and forgets everything that happened. She expresses not wanting to go home, so Chase decides to take her to Alex's house. On the other side, we see Molly going down to the basement to feed Gert's animals and is surprised by the presence of a strange place. She hears through it the sound of a beast and learns that her parents are doctors who constantly conduct experiments on animals. However, this animal sound is new to her, and she is very scared to the point that she calls her sister to go anywhere. Alex is surprised that the five are going to hang out with him, and is very happy. Chase believes that their relationship can never be like it was before, especially since none of them chose each other, and they became friends, because their parents are friends. But Alex is hopeful that they can return to how they were before, at least for Amy's sake. Chase interrupts him, reminding him that he didn't even attend her funeral. Everyone is surprised and doesn't understand why he did that. Then they change the subject and decide to look for something to drink. They enter Jeffrey, Alex's father's room, and accidentally one of them presses a secret button, opening a secret door. When they enter, they find a large basement where each of their families is gathered dressed in red, performing certain rituals as if they were a cult. Destiny, the girl from the church, is there with them, and they give her a certain drink. As soon as she loses consciousness, they put her in a strange box. At this time, Molly can't see well, so she takes out her phone to take a picture and the flashlight comes on, startling all the families and immediately stopping the rituals. Later, it is revealed that they are part of a group called Pride. The young people rush out and realize that they have accidentally locked the basement door. Molly helps them open it using her magical power, but none of them notice and think they managed to open it themselves. They are frightened of their parents because they had been instructed not to be present during the meetings and are even more scared after witnessing their parents kill a girl in front of their eyes. After much thought, Alex decides to cut the power to make it seem like a normal outage. We go back a few hours in time and see Catherine saying goodbye to her son as he goes to school. She is very worried about him because he has changed since Amy's death. Jeffrey reassures her that he will be fine because he is a strong and smart young man. Then Catherine gets ready to go to work, and we learn that she is a lawyer. At the same time, Janet comforts her son Chase, who is upset about his father's behavior. Meanwhile, Victor is in his lab conducting an experiment on a rat using a box. He's surprised that the rat is still there after entering the box, leading him to conclude that there is a malfunction. Janet enters and notices that he is suffering from a severe headache, a symptom he has been experiencing for a while, but has been ignoring. When Janet suggests asking for help to fix the box, Victor objects and becomes very angry, showing that he is a very temperamental person. At the same time, Leslie is busy with church problems. Her husband's friend has an interview with his boss who informs him that he is fired. Tina is upset with her daughter's behavior, so she takes the magical wand she has to completely seal Amy's room. When Robert objects to her decision, believing that problems cannot be solved this way, Tina argues with him and uses her wand to create a barrier between them. Robert understands that she is upset about their daughter's death, which is causing her temper, and asks her to express her feelings normally, despite Tina still being affected by her daughter's death. She tries to ignore her feelings and changes the subject. Frank, trying to find something to do after losing his job, talks with Leslie and asks to join the church, believing he has skills that can help. Leslie walks away without giving him a clear response. In the present, Jeffrey and Catherine, the homeowners, come out to see what happened. They see Alex playing with his friends and conclude that they have nothing to do with what happened. The friends gather, confused about everything. They speculate that Destiny might have died because she entered the box and didn't come out. We see Frank, Leslie's husband, who has become a servant at the same church. He goes to visit her at the hospital, but she isn't there. After all the group members leave, Victor opens the box and discovers that Destiny is still alive, leading him to conclude that the malfunction hasn't been fixed yet. Nico returns home with her parents and sees her mother holding the magical wand, and she follows her to see where she will put it. At night, Jeffrey is sitting in his office and finds a hair clip on the floor, which he picks up. We go back 10 years and see all the parents gathered at the funeral of Molly's parents. We learn they died in a fire, and everyone is devastated by the loss of their friends. After the funeral, the children play together while the adults comfort each other. Catherine talks with Janet, expressing disbelief that their friends are really gone. Jeffrey suspects Tina had something to do with the incident, especially after seeing burn marks on her hands. He shares his suspicions with her husband, Robert, who defends Tina, claiming she got burned in the kitchen and couldn't have harmed their friends. But Jeffrey doesn't seem convinced. At the same time, Dale and Stacy are worried that someone from the Pride organization might find out they contacted Molly's parents shortly before their death. They decide to adopt Molly, and she agrees. In the present, Molly is anxious after discovering that her hair clip is lost. She tells Jert that her mother gave it to her a long time ago, which is why it's so precious to her. That day, all the young people receive a message from Alex, suggesting they meet to discuss what happened. Carolina shows them a message from Destiny, saying she is currently on a church trip. However, the rest of the group is skeptical and feels something is wrong. Each of them expresses their viewpoint, with most believing their parents are murderers who kidnap people to kill them. After much discussion, they decide to investigate their parents until they find something. Molly tells them about the beast she saw in the basement, but no one believes her, so she leaves them. At that time, Victor is suffering from hallucinations and imagines seeing Destiny standing in front of him. He starts talking to her until Janet enters, snapping him out of it. Janet reminds him of an important appointment they have. Then Victor changes the subject and reproaches her for distancing herself from him and neglecting their family, despite him doing everything for them. Jert decides to help Chase search in his father's lab. They start looking for anything that might help them, and are thrilled when they find the coffin. Using X-ray glasses, Jurt discovers that the box is empty, and they guess that Destiny might still be alive, which makes them happy. Afterwards, Jurt decides to take Chase to her house to see if there really is a monster or not. Meanwhile, Jeffrey talks with his wife Catherine and shows her the hair clip he found. Catherine decides to meet Molly at the cafe where she is sitting and pretend to be there by coincidence. She then shows Molly the hair clip, saying they found it in their home office. Molly becomes very nervous and lies, saying she was looking for the bathroom and it fell from her. She then excuses herself, saying she feels sick and goes to the bathroom, leaving Catherine. Molly starts looking for a way to escape and manages to use her power to break the iron in the bathroom and escape to the street. Catherine notices Molly has been gone for a while, and when she enters the bathroom, she realizes Molly has escaped. She starts looking for her until she finds her unconscious in the street, gets very worried and takes her to the car. Molly regains consciousness shortly after and says that the boys took advantage of her being the youngest and asked her to get drinks for them. She entered the office to look for them there, which is why she was scared and had to lie. Catherine believes her and puts away the syringe. Meanwhile, Alex tries to go down to the basement, but as soon as he opens the door, he receives a call from his father and finds out he has arrived home, so he quickly closes the door again. Carolina learns from someone at the church that they saw Destiny getting into a car to go to the airport, but they don't know anything about her after that. On the other side, we see Nico, whose parents offer to go out for dinner together, but she refuses under the pretext that she wants to leave them alone for a while to reminisce about old times. However, her real intention is to search the house in their absence. She enters her mother's room and finds the magical wand inside a box, which she takes. She also finds her sister Amy's diaries in the office. When she focuses on the snowflake drawings in them, snow suddenly starts falling around her, leading her to conclude that the wand is magical and can make anything she thinks of real. She summons Alex and tells him what she has discovered. At that time, Robert and Tina are having an argument, showing that their daughter's death has affected their relationship, and they haven't been able to return to how they were before. Nico realizes her mother is on her way home, so she puts everything back as it was. Jurt and Chase arrive at Jurt's house and see the dinosaur themselves. It's about to attack them, but suddenly it hears a loud noise, gets scared, and runs away from the house. Meanwhile, Leslie goes to check on the unknown person to see if there's been any improvement in his health condition. However, the man tells her he still doesn't feel anything. At that time, Destiny's body is found on the shore, but nobody knows the cause of her death. Leslie calls Tina and tells her that they need to sacrifice someone else other than Destiny as the experiment has failed. We go back a few years in time and see Nico entering her sister Amy's room to wake her up, but finds that she has committed suicide. Nico collapses and calls for her parents. Her mother quickly takes her out of the room. When Nico tries to call the ambulance, her mother enters and uses the magical wand to make her lose consciousness. Later, Nico accesses the house's cameras and discovers that her mother summoned a strange man in her father's absence and gave him a lot of money in exchange for solving this problem. It's evident that Nico doesn't understand anything. In the present, Alex is calling them so that everyone says he has reached his destination and each one tells about what he knew. Nico says that she thought her mother hid her sister's diary, so that no one knows the reason for her sadness recently who made her commit suicide, but when she read the diaries she knew that her sister was very good, and that's why she started to suspect that her sister committed suicide and nothing and that she was killed. And Chase asks them to take care of themselves, and that's because they're not supposed to trust anyone. And then Alex starts looking around his father's office and discovers that he has hidden a gun. And Dale and Stacy fight with each other after they learn that the dinosaur has escaped, and they guess that one of them forgot the door to the basement open. And each one of them begins to hold the other responsible for what happened. And the Pride members meet again and Victor says that the box is faulty and he thought it had been repaired, but since Destiny has disappeared as was expected, the malfunction is still there. And we know that they want to sacrifice someone in order to save the unknown person from what he is in, and that Victor is the one who invented this device. And Jeffrey reassures them that his men were able to solve the problem of Destiny's body, and no one will know that they have something to do with what happened, and so they are supposed to find another girl or boy, so they can repeat the same experience. and the two young men go to apologize to Chase for what happened at the party and say that they were drunk, but Chase rejects their apology and the three start hitting each other until the manager arrives and takes them to his office. Then Carolina goes to talk to Jurt and asks her to come to her house, hoping they might find something in her mother's office. When the girls arrive there after a thorough search, they find encrypted files on Leslie's computer. They transfer the files onto a USB drive and decide to give it to Alex, who is skilled in such matters. Later Chase arrives and Carolina talks to him. She decides to remove her bracelet for the second time, but asks him to stay close in case something happens to her. When she removes the bracelet, her body changes into the colors of the spectrum. Although they are amazed by the sight, they are also scared because they don't understand why it's happening. Carolina guesses that her mother made her wear the bracelet to prevent her body from transforming into these colors. Naiko decides to report her parents and what she saw at Alex's house to the authorities. She asks Alex to accompany her. Alex, who appears to have feelings for her and is concerned for her safety, agrees to go with her despite not being fully convinced by her plan. At the police station, they see Victor and Robert being arrested for attempting to kidnap a homeless man to continue their experiment. Naiko recognizes the same man who was at their house on the day of her sister's death and realizes he is a police officer. She concludes that their parents have connections in the police and decides not to report anything, preferring to uncover the truth herself. Meanwhile, Dale and Stacy spend a long time searching for the dinosaur, but can't find it. At the same time, Molly senses movement in the house and discovers the dinosaur has returned. It is about to attack her, but when Molly becomes scared, her eyes change color, and she emits a force that pushes the dinosaur away. Jurt arrives and upon shouting, scares the dinosaur, which then obeys her commands. When their parents arrive, they are relieved to find the dinosaur back and confess that they created it to protect them, hinting at a bigger threat they are afraid of. Alex manages to decrypt the files, which contain names and information of teenagers. They realize Leslie has been selecting specific teenagers and sending their information to the other parents, after which these teenagers disappear. They suspect they are dealing with a criminal gang. Naiko calls Carolina to tell her everything. Later, Naiko goes out to check on Alex, who had left earlier and hadn't returned. She sees people in a car abducting him, but she is unable to do anything. We go back 18 years and see Jeffrey in a bar with his friend Pete. It's revealed that they killed someone on that day. Jeffrey receives a visit from a man named John, their first meeting coincidentally. Jeffrey's lawyer, who happens to be Catherine, who later becomes his wife, is also present that day. John informs Jeffrey that he has inherited land in the South and offers to buy it for $5 million. Jeffrey is surprised because the land is worth much less, leading him to conclude that John wants it for some illegal purpose. SI. Jeffrey decides to take advantage of the situation and agrees to sell the land on the condition that he works with John. However, John tells him he must first get out of prison to work together. This is where Catherine comes in, finding a solution to get Jeffrey out of prison. She asks him to convince Pete to take the fall for the crime alone. Jeffrey persuades Pete to confess to the murder, promising to take care of his family until he gets out of prison. Pete agrees, but we learn that Jeffrey didn't keep his promise. This leads to the present day, where we see Pete having decided to kidnap Alex. Naiko gathers the rest of the group and informs them that Alex has been kidnapped. She reveals that she has stolen her mother's magical wand and asks it about Alex's location. Suddenly, a beam of light shoots out towards a specific direction, leading them to conclude that it's guiding them to Alex. P tells Alex about the true nature of his father and then forces him to call his father. P demands a ransom of $1 million for Alex's release and orders him to arrange the money within an hour. Shortly afterward, Jeffrey arrives with his men, and they start fighting with P's group. One of P's men is about to kill Jeffrey when Alex pulls out the gun he has and shoots the man. Alex is initially shaken, as it's his first time killing someone, but it turns out the man is still alive. Jeffrey takes the gun from his son's hand and calms him down. Then P arrives and puts the gun to Alex's head, forcing him to get into the car. Jeffrey is afraid to intervene, worried that P might kill Alex on the road. Alex's friends arrive. Naiko tries to use the magical wand but fails. Molly decides to step in and uses her power to lift the car off the ground. Carolina then removes her bracelet, emitting rays that block P's vision. P pulls out his weapon to kill them, but Chase arrives just in time. He reveals a device he invented that looks like a fist, which emits powerful rays that push P away. When P regains consciousness and tries to kill them again, Naiko activates the magical wand and creates a transparent barrier between them. scaring P away. Jeffrey is relieved that his son is safe. Alex wants to take the injured man to the hospital, but Jeffrey assures him he will handle it. The group decides to gather to celebrate Alex's safe return. They are happy about the abilities they possess. Molly tells them that Jared also has a superpower. Animals obey her. Alex then asks for their help to find the young man, suspecting their parents might harm him. They decide to go to Alex's house's basement to stop them. Unknown to Alex, Jeffrey lied to him and took the young man to be the new sacrifice, but this time they choose a different location. The experiment is successful, and the young man disappears. Leslie thanks the group and asks them to leave, allowing her some privacy. The kids arrive at the basement but find no one there. By chance, they discover a camera in Jeffrey's office and learn that the recordings are stored on a device at Nico's parents' company. Nico returns the magical wand, but her mother sees her. Surprisingly, she doesn't argue with Nico and explains that the magical wand only works with the two of them. Chase goes to thank his father Victor for helping him develop the device. Victor seizes the opportunity to confess that he has brain cancer. Despite Victor's harshness over the years, Chase is visibly moved and worried about his father. As the box experiment was successful, the unknown man revealed to be John, who visited Jeffrey in prison years ago, wakes up at the same time the young man disappears. We learn that Leslie did all this to save him, and it's apparent that she loves him, but no one knows anything. We go back 15 years and see Jeffrey and Catherine after they got married. John gives them his house, which has a large basement where many meetings take place. He stipulates that they continue these meetings and participate in them. The time for the first meeting arrives, with Molly's parents among the participants. That day, they sacrifice a member of the church, placing him in the box. Leslie then speaks, explaining that the young man has disappeared and transformed into energy inside the box. It's revealed that John was recording them to force them to participate in future meetings, threatening them with the video if anyone refused. John had been giving each of them money and properties in exchange for their attendance at that meeting, and since then, they were obliged to continue attending. In the present, John is pleased with the outcome and asks to see his daughter. However, Leslie seems afraid of this step. Meanwhile, Nico's mother begins to train her in using the magical wand. At the same time, Victor is spying on his wife Janet and discovers that she is having an affair with Robert. They speak ill of Victor, and Robert encourages Janet to confront Victor about their relationship, giving her a gun for self-defense in case something happens. A few days later, Tina and Robert throw a large fundraising party at their company. Nico and Alex take this opportunity to access the computer and view the camera recordings. At the same time, Carolina and Chase are talking at the top of the building. When Carolina accidentally drops her glass, as she tries to catch it, she falls off, but Chase tries to save her. Her bracelet falls off, unleashing her superpower, which allows her to fly and prevents her from getting hurt. Victor speaks in front of everyone, visibly very ill, and reveals that his wife is having an affair with Robert. He then loses consciousness and is taken to a secluded area. Chase notices everyone's concern for his father and feels compelled to reveal that Victor has cancer. While they are talking, John enters and orders everyone except Leslie and Dale to leave. He takes out a syringe from his bag and gives it to Victor, claiming it's an immunotherapy treatment he invented. Dale secretly steals a vial of the medicine. Meanwhile, Alex, with Nico's help, manages to steal part of the files, and they leave the office undetected. Surprisingly, Victor's health significantly improves after taking the injection. He goes to speak with Janet and forgives her for her infidelity. John then approaches Carolina, introducing himself as an old friend of her mother. Carolina senses something off about his behavior. Molly, curious about her parents, decides to ask Catherine, who was close to them. However, Molly accidentally reveals that she was in the basement and saw them performing rituals. Realizing her mistake, she quickly leaves. Catherine then goes to talk to Jeffrey and tells him everything that happened. We travel back 25 years and see Janet at the cinema with Victor, who asks her if she would like to travel through time. Then we see Victor with Leslie in the hospital as she gives birth, holding the baby with joy. In the present, Victor invents a device that can show you the future. Meanwhile, Jeffrey and Catherine are still anxious, especially since Alex has changed and is treating them harshly. Catherine decides to search her son's room to see if he or his friends have discovered anything. Chase goes to check on his father and is happy to see him doing well. He then talks to his mother Janet, who wishes for her relationship with Victor to improve and for him to forgive her. However, Chase reminds her that she abandoned him, and it becomes apparent that he also can't forgive her. Robert, feeling guilty, apologizes to his daughter for embarrassing her when she learned of his affair with Janet in front of many people. Nico forgives him and is confident that if he talks to her mother, she would forgive him too. However, Robert refuses because he loves Janet and wants to marry her. The group meets again, and Alex tells them that he is still trying to open the videos he stole from the company. Then he starts talking, revealing that Catherine suspects her and narrates everything that happened in detail. Alex blames her for keeping all this secret, but Molly defends herself, explaining that she has long been upset with them because they never believe her, no matter what she says. Dale manages to create a new DNA composition, but accidentally spills some of the substance on his hands. Initially, he doesn't feel anything, but then he starts to experience a slight pain. He doesn't tell Stacy about it, not wanting to worry her. After a while, there is a large conference where the youth and their parents gather. Leslie talks with Tina, trying to sow discord between her and her husband by reminding her of his affair with Janet. However, Tina seems intent on forgiving him, not wanting to destroy their family. Leslie then talks to Janet, advising her to forget the past and focus on her husband. Janet notices Victor and Robert standing together and suspects they are talking about her, so she intervenes to prevent them from fighting. Jeff and Catherine talk with Dale and Stacy, telling them that Molly probably knows something about them and advising them to be more cautious around her. The kids see their parents standing together and deduce that it has something to do with Molly. Frank talks with his wife Leslie and shows her a photo he found in her office at the church, which brings back memories she had forgotten. He suspects that John is not an ordinary person, and Leslie confirms his suspicions. Frank is upset that she kept secrets from him, and more so when he learns about a relationship with John. Robert tries to talk to Janet, who has been distancing herself from him since the scandal at the party. When he suggests they get back together, Janet refuses because her relationship with her husband has improved, leaving Robert devastated. Tina sees Robert in this state and feels jealous. That night, Molly enters her room and is shocked to find Dale and Stacy packing her things. They plan to send her to live with relatives, which upsets Molly as she feels they are trying to get rid of her. As they continue packing, Jared arrives and takes her sister out of the room when she notices Molly's eyes changing color, indicating she is about to unleash her power and potentially harm them. Jared reassures Molly that she will never abandon her. Victor enters the lab where Chase is working alone and is upset to see his son working by himself. He picks up the fist device they invented together and is about to harm Chase. However, Janet intervenes just in time and shoots Victor with a gun, fearing he might hurt their son. Robert arrives just as Chase is about to confront him, but Tina stops Chase, arguing that their family doesn't need any more problems. The rest of the organization's members also arrive, completely opposed to reporting what happened because Janet was responsible and would surely be imprisoned. Chase is indifferent to everything except his father, but Tina calms him and asks him to take his mother home while they take care of his father. She emphasizes that Pride is one family and they don't abandon each other, leaving Chase fearful of them knowing well what they are capable of. The group decides not to inform John and looks for another solution. They ask Dale and Stacy to treat Victor, but the task proves difficult due to the severity of his condition and they fail to save him. They then turn to Frank, who uses his healing powers, but surprisingly Victor dies shortly afterward. John arrives, called by Tina because they have no other solution. John decides to use the box to bring Victor back to life, which requires another sacrifice. He chooses Janet since she killed Victor. Initially, Janet completely refuses, but John threatens to choose her son instead, so she reluctantly agrees at the last moment. Robert intervenes, unable to bear watching her die. He decides to sacrifice himself despite everything he did to Tina, who refuses to let him do so. She uses her magical wand to destroy the box, leading to a confrontation with Leslie. Leslie argues that the person who knew how to make the boxes is dead, so they can't easily destroy one of the existing boxes. On the other side, Nico insists on knowing why Alex was absent from Amy's funeral, forcing Alex to reveal everything. We learn that shortly before Amy's death, Alex discovered someone had hacked her laptop. Amy had been trying to hack into her mother's company system to prove she was smarter than her mother. However, her mother never found out who was behind it. Amy, afraid of her mother's reaction, didn't confess to the hacking. Both Alex and Nico speculate that Tina might have killed her daughter after discovering Amy's knowledge about the company. Nico decides to search through her sister's belongings for any clues and finds her phone, which had been missing since her death. She charges it to access its contents. Meanwhile, Molly reaches her relative's place and discovers that a relative has kept a letter from her parents, meant to be given to her. The letter is cryptic, leading Molly to believe it's a puzzle. She deciphers it, learning that they wanted her to go to a station and open a specific locker, using a key included with the letter. There, Molly finds a videotape and takes it with her. The group meets again and Alex reveals that he managed to decrypt the video and discovered the secret of the box they have. It can bring people back to life in exchange for sacrificing others. They consider reporting this to the police, but Chase objects because Pride is currently responsible for his father. He fears that if the police start investigating Pride, his father could be harmed. The disagreement escalates into a physical fight between the boys, resulting in Chase breaking the laptop, thereby losing the only evidence they had. We go back 10 years, and we see Molly's parents in a state of fear, beginning to pack their belongings to flee. They call Dale and Stacy, telling them they found a strange rock at the site. They took a sample and discovered it's related to renewable energy. Unnoticed, Molly touches the rock, and then the place explodes, with Molly being the only survivor. We see Leslie and Tina talking, and it becomes apparent that they orchestrated the incident. In the present, Nico discovers that her father has returned home, and that he and her mother have reconciled. Simultaneously, Carolina decides to tell everything to her father Frank, who resolves to help her uncover the truth. Chase overhears his mother in a TV interview claiming that her husband Victor is sick and has gone abroad for treatment. Upset that she is lying, Chase confronts her when she returns home. She reassures him that his father is fine and that the rest of the team is taking care of him. The next day, at school, Chase is consoled by his classmates about his father's illness. He later goes to talk to Alex, apologizing for breaking his laptop. The members of the organization, led by John, gather in a strange location and start operating a drilling machine. Immediately, the students are surprised when Molly arrives and shows them the videotape she found. She insists they watch it together. The tape turns out to be a video from Molly's parents, revealing that they were part of the Pride organization. They say that the group did a lot of good, but recently, they had been planning something strange after discovering a buried source of renewable energy in a specific area, which could benefit the entire world. However, Molly's parents later realized that drilling in that area was dangerous, potentially causing earthquakes and other disasters, including dangerous viruses. The students conclude that their parents are using charitable projects to cover up their real activities. John gathers all the team members and inquires about their children's whereabouts. It is revealed that the children told their parents they were at a school party, but in reality, they were following them. John informs the team that the children have seen everything themselves, having managed to hack into the company's device and access the video. They are currently at the drilling site, so John decides to take all the team members there. The youth arrive at the site, each armed with their respective tools, and decide to destroy the drilling site to protect their parents and the city's residents. Molly uses her strength to push a truck into the hole. As their parents arrive, they are prepared to fight their own family to save the city. Each family is shocked to discover the superpowers their children possess. However, the children refuse to surrender. Carolina confronts John, revealing that John has the same power as her. Energy bursts from each of them, repelling the other. A power outage occurs, and Dale notices the dinosaur with them, shooting it before it can act rashly. The teenagers are frustrated with their parents' control and start using their powers, but John arrives and with a wave of his hand emits a strange force that throws them back. The youths decide to retreat, realizing their parents are stronger and unbeatable. The dinosaur is still alive, so they take it with them as they leave. However, Carolina refuses to go with them, using her similar power to confront John. Immense energy emits from both, shaking the place. The children flee and decide to sleep in the woods, afraid to return home, but refusing to leave Carolina alone, ready to do anything to save her. Meanwhile, the parents gather, and it is revealed that John convinced them to work with him at the drilling site, promising that the renewable energy there would make them rich and enable them to save the world from many troubles. They feel they made a mistake by agreeing, as their children now know too much, and John won't let them go. Tina confesses that Leslie was responsible for what happened to Molly's parents, but claims she didn't know Molly was in the house at the time. However, she denies having anything to do with any wrongdoing. At this time, Carolina is unconscious, and Leslie, visibly worried about her, stays by her side. Frank discovers everything and realizes that Leslie erased his memory to make him forget that he saw her cheating on him with John. He also finds out that John is Carolina's real father, but he refuses to abandon Carolina since he raised her. Jurt has to say a temporary goodbye to her dinosaur because they have a long journey ahead and it can't accompany her. The youth decide to seek help from one of Carolina's friends at the church to find her. Initially skeptical, the friend eventually agrees to help out of concern for Carolina. Carolina regains consciousness to find John sitting with her and is shocked to learn he is her father. Dale and Stacy arrive at the drilling site and, using a specific device, discover a living creature beneath the ground. They conclude that John deceived everyone and even Leslie didn't know about it, upsetting her that John also kept secrets from her. Chase and Molly enter the church, pretending to be homeless and in need of a place to stay. The friend from the church takes them to Carolina's room, where Molly uses her power to open the door, and they find Carolina there. On their way out, they are chased by Leslie's men, but manage to outsmart them and escape. The parents gather again after learning the truth about John, that he has been exploiting them for years to fulfill his desires. Leslie reveals that JN killed Amy and that she sent a warning message to Amy suspecting John might harm her. However, John reached Amy before she could see the message. Now they all have a common enemy in John. Meanwhile, the youth decide to flee, but upon reaching the station, they are stunned to find that someone has reported their disappearance and accused them of killing Destiny. They are now wanted for questioning and prohibited from traveling. The police ask anyone who sees them to report immediately. Someone at the station almost reports them, but they quickly escape along with Jert's dinosaur, which had been waiting for her all this time. Our series and dot. Subscribe to watch more videos like this, and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.